Welcome to Suffolk Freemasons' free and accepted podcast, where we hope to inform, educate and entertain. Welcome to another episode of Suffolk Province's podcast, Free and Accepted Masons. I am one of the co-hosts, Mark Jepson.
You nearly got that right, Mark. Morning, everybody. Roger Corst.
I don't like to be the star of the whole time. Gentlemen, please introduce yourselves.
Yeah, morning everyone. I'm Neil Tweed, Suffolk Blues Chairman.
Yep, and I'm Phil Debenham, Suffolk Blues Vice Chairman.
We are delighted to have the SLBs here doing a podcast. Thank you very much for coming along and doing it. Who wants to just know what somebody listening who's a new Mason, what is the Suffolk Light Blues?
Suffolk Light Blues is a group which was formed primarily to support new and young Masons who are early on in their career or Masonic journey. We provide a bit of a network, really, of information, events, and support for anyone which is looking to further what they do once they've joined. So, Phil.
Yeah, I primarily do more the event side of the program, as it were. We try and do a mixture of events throughout the province because we are a quite spread out province. So we try and do certain events in certain parts, so it's easy for the others to engage and come. We're now going to try and do a little bit, hopefully, with the learning and development team.
Yeah.
So, because I appreciate not everyone's idea of a Masonic event is a lodge visit per se. Not everyone's idea is a pub meeting or a curry night, or some people might want to learn and further their Masonic career. So when the Masonic year reopens again, we hopefully make a collaboration.
Because one of the things is when you first become a Mason, you get that real euphoria of you've joined, that's your night, isn't it? And wow, I've joined something. But particularly online Masons, it's about keeping them engaged, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things we do is on their night, on their initiation, we tend to be fairly low key and just introduce ourselves because they've gone through quite a confusion, emotional,
What's going on here?
Yeah, so we're like a friendly hand on the shoulder. We introduce ourselves, we give them our contact details, and we normally get back to them after a few weeks just to see how they're getting on. And you'll be surprised the amount of these new guys which will approach us, especially the online guys, they'll approach us as Suffolk Light Blues rather than going to the lodge mentor, the lodge secretary, the lodge DC, because to them, a lot of them are just titles and names,
Yeah.
and they don't actually know their purpose, but they tend to come back to us with any problems, any questions, little questions like, am I allowed to wear the festival tie at this lodge if I'm visiting? The silly question is the one they don't ask.
Yeah.
But they do come to us for quite a good...
It might be a silly question, but everybody thinks everybody asks a question. That's the thing.
And they do tend to come to us for a lot of different support, problems in lodges, anything they've got. I think people would be surprised the amount of these guys what come to the Suffolk Light Blues for advice, and then we signpost them to the different...
They get happen us more than we realise.
Yeah.
A lot more people ask these questions than any normal person would realise they do.
Yeah.
And I think we are quite, a useful tool there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
It's a real...
We're under the radar.
Yeah. And I mean, SLBs in McGanwell, I remember Dean and Paul Rackham setting out far too long to remember how long ago they did that. And I know they've always been incredibly supportive and I'm going to use the word passionate about it, which is fantastic. And you are really, I suppose, the next generation.
The custodians, I suppose.
Yeah.
And,
who's going to develop it even further.
Yeah.
And now you've introduced SLB reps, or they've been around for a while, haven't they? But are you?
well, that's how me and Neil started.
Yeah.
Me and Neil started. Neil was...
I was a rep for...
6 months before.
Yeah,
before.
but he went for quite a while.
And we just sort of, migrated into the positions we hold today.
So under the rep umbrella, is it the same as like the VOs? You're on target at so many lodges, or?
Yeah, we used to, as Neil was saying, we used to mirror the old group rep groups.
Yes.
Which was quite nice in a way where you and your fellow VO, I mean, mine was Will Austin at the time, group 4, and me and Will become the firm friends we are today through that. And I know you're very similar there.
Yeah, well, we used to mirror the groups exactly, didn't we?
Yeah, that was exact.
But we were very sort of cautious that the groups are very spread out now, and it is a tall ask because primarily the Suffolk Light Blues team are younger guys, working guys, so we need to be more informal with what we do, you know. So if that's your group, you haven't got to go there. We're all fluid. We all move about the whole province, and we're trying to engage more in other areas, because that's where we can spread the word to different. Because you go to different lodges, you meet different people, and everyone's got their own style, and we're trying to get it so you haven't got Felix does one area and Barriers another area, or Lowestoft. We just want to merge it as we're all one, and just integrate between everywhere. So rather than having fixed guys which supported fixed areas, yes, it's good to have them, but we just want to be fairly fluid and move around the province as a whole.
And what's quite good as well, because we're now getting quite a lot of people from the internet joining, where previously it'd be your mate and you'd be the mentor, you'd look after them in lodge. These guys are coming in totally blind and they don't really know anybody. They might meet the secretary, the mentor for an interview, and they're suddenly launched into lodge. So when they join the Light Blues, they've suddenly got a family of similar people that they can get to know.
Yeah, and that was quite good. We had our end of year curry afternoon in Woodbridge, didn't we? And what was lovely to see has been 3 relatively new Masons now that know if they come off the internet or not.
Yeah, they did
come through Provence, and that was lovely to see.
Yeah,
they turned up and stayed the whole afternoon, and we got to know well.
That is what they tend to do. They come along and they bond with Masons who are in a similar position as them. You know, they're at a similar stage in their Masonic journey. They can all relate to what they're going through and have they then tend to visit each other's lodges, and it does form a network
which is
of friends.
Because I know when I was group rep in Felix, we've in almost about the same month or so, we had a guy from Romania join and a bloke from Brazil who were working in England, both online candidates, but both are actually really enjoying their masonry. And of course, first of all, they didn't know anyone, and 2, English was not their first language, although they spoke very good English. But, you know, they're probably barriers for them, and I think the SLPs has been really good for them. And Adrian, who I know, he loves visiting other areas now. And that strength of what the SLPs can deliver for people, it shouldn't be underestimated.
No, I think people see the badge, don't they? And I think you can, I can relate to them.
Yes. Yeah.
And I would say Adrian, he's really took off with the SLBs. Anything we put on, if we're doing a visit, if we're doing a carry, if he's not working, he's there, you know, and he always...
Sorry, Adrian Black.
Adrian Black.
Yes, he hasn't got a name.
Yeah, so and that is what's for us. Just, not everybody can attend everything we do all of the time, but if you can pick up 1, 2, and it's not about having 10, 20, 30 people.
Yeah.
It's having a gathering. And if you've got a gathering of a few like-minded people and they enjoy themselves, it's worthwhile. You know, because you tend to meet people, build friendships, and then moves on.
That's what it's all about, isn't it? So, I mean, we've all found good friendship within this organisation. You know, we meet people in different parts of the province that you'd have never met, and we all bond really well. So again, with the Light Blues, it's a good one for the youngsters coming in who don't know people, get to go out.
We've reinstated the lodge visits now, which are really well attended, I think.
Yeah.
And we're sort of crisscrossing the county, just trying to.
So when you lodge visits, you're getting a lodge to visit another lodge in mass. Is that? That's the
Light Blues on mass.
So it doesn't matter if they're from Priory Lodge. They're coming to.
No, well, like I say, we've been over to Woodbridge.
Yeah.
We've been to Barry, Ipswich, and we, like I say, next on the list is getting towards Sudbury, Hadley.
And I think what's because you've also got a very active Facebook page. You've got good members on there.
Very good. Yeah, it's very good support.
Which is a really good way of promoting the SLBs are doing.
Yeah, and we're using the events tab now, so our aim is to always have an event on the tab and a lodge visit on the tab.
Yeah.
Just so people can, if we put stuff far enough ahead, people can book them up. And there's much notice.
Any events are you aiming to do a year?
We'll certainly do a lodge visit a month.
Right.
Is what we've been doing the last portion of this year, when I took over. And then we plan on doing events. Will certainly be a big event every quarter.
Mm-hmm.
But, a lot of it, we want to pick special stuff, if special things. What did we pick? We picked Seckford.
Yeah,
the
60 years
certificate.
Yeah,
which was good to see.
Yeah.
And that's nice for young Masons to see
something.
He's worked and he's got 60 years.
And I think there is that blend, isn't it, of getting the new people. And we were talking about it with Stephen Bowfield, who's subject to another podcast, but all the old characters that used to be, at some point, we're going to be the old characters we had.
And that started as us.
Yeah.
So that's one thing we're keen with. Obviously, we're badged as the Suffolk White Blues, and people think, I'm a dark blue, I can't attend anything. We got dark blues go on the visits with us. They've got dark blues go on any event, and you do need that experience. And I think it shows the amalgamation between the two. It's not them and us.
No,
we're all in it because we're Masons and we enjoy what we're doing. It's important to get a broad section of people.
I think our last event sort of, showed that, because we had people who were end apprentices, and we had 2 or 3 grand officers turn up.
Yeah.
And you think, well, actually,
That's good.
they like what we put on.
Well, I think when I was a young Mason, and I was a member of Colford Lodge, which was a lovely lodge, really enjoyed it. But there was, and I think that was the way culture was, but until you'd been through the chair, sometimes the more senior guys didn't always engage with them. And I think that we've got across that. We've got over that, I think.
Yeah, it's disappearing.
That divide is.
Yeah, they were lovely people, but it was almost the way that one was.
It's the same with a seating plan. You go to a lodge and the seating plan would be dark blues, grand officers, and then everyone else at the side. But now it is more.
With the senior president, they came to know, and the senior guys, you get to know the youngsters. Years ago, the best thing in a lodge was to be the lodge steward.
Yeah,
because everybody wanted to know your name. Can you get me a drink? Can you do this?
It was one of the best things, but give you an indigestion.
Well,
sorry, you didn't have
you dinner, and you're always on the go. But every morning, it was 2 or 3 years being the steward, and then suddenly you on the floor.
Everyone tries to get away from that in Apollo.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that if you can, the more you get involved, and I'm sure you encourage the SLBs, the more you get involved with your lodge, the more you will feel part of it.
Yeah.
But I think there's as much for the lodge to make sure that new members feel involved as well.
It does. There is a gap there where clearly when people are initiated, then they've got a little while before they get a position, but to give them anything to do within that lodge, and stewarding is one of them things, because they might have 2 or 3 years to wait before they can actually get on the floor.
That's right.
But to become a steward or become anything, just encourage them. We encourage them to do pieces of work, and that's one of the things we're trying to do with Integrate with the Learn. Is encouraging the guys to do
different ways to learn.
Don't look at a big piece of work, what they've seen, and think, I can't do that. Think of a way of breaking it down and have a little work where they can introduce themselves.
Well, that's what Lodge of Instruction is all about, isn't it? Getting the youngsters along, doing little bits.
I think the thing I've learned about with our Lodge of Instruction, I think sometimes they feel like it's a bit too much for them at times, and we sort of know, well, we don't know it, do we? We're always learning, but we know what we know. And I sometimes think if we could just show them little tidbits of way to learn, and evolve in that, and I think they might think, that's a good way of learning. I'll get that in my head, and
as a like-minded visit, and, I speak for myself, and I think Phil was the same. Sometimes we're out 3-4 nights a week at times when it's really busy, but you do find yourself actually integrating with the lodge you're visiting. Quite often you'll stand in as an officer for was here, and if Phil visits my lodge in Cambridge, he's always got he's always got a job, and that's how I joined one of my lodges, because I was permanently visiting and sitting in one of the chairs and end up. So
that does give you that.
Yes. So I think it's nice to be integrated and feel part of wherever you are.
And I've seen it in Colney's Lodge where I think it's the charge, but 3 people deliver the charge.
Yeah.
And they do a few lines each, and that's brought in some of the SLBs. But actually what you don't really, you've got to know they probably think I'm only doing a short bit, but you've got to know the whole, you've got to be very familiar with the whole passage, haven't you?
So you've got to know when yours is coming up, but also if the person you're working with misses a bit, you've got to be able to make it flow and just carry on and support him by missing that bit out. It's no good just learning your paragraph.
No, that's right.
You do need to know the piece, but it makes it better for the viewer as such. If I was sitting there watching a ceremony, if you're seeing the same person, it just breaks it.
Oh, yeah, it's the same voice. You get some lodges there, the master does everything. It's the same voice all the way through. But going back to you guys as chairmen and vice chair, you've got these youngsters coming in, and you just said that you can be out 3, 4, 5 times a week. Are you watching the youngsters to make sure that they're not falling into this trap, that their wives are at home with the family and they're out every night?
You see people who you try and put something on, and you say you visit, and you just say, look, you haven't got to go to this. Just what are you doing? Your lodges that week, and it's very important. There's nothing which you have to do, and this is one of the things the guys ring out and they say, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do a bit more. And you sort of gauge in their personal circumstances, and just then you'd encourage them to do more in their own lodge, because it's a bit addictive. You do go out and visit and you enjoy it, and it does become addictive, but you've got to look at the balance.
Well, the expense and the family, there's a lot of divorcees going around through not only Suffolk, through Masonry and through other organisations, because people suddenly put a lot of time and effort into doing something and then they're never at home.
No. So have you got anything planned for this summer? Or are you allowing the recess to be a proper recess?
If my proposer's listening, Michael Ashford, he would tell me that I need to be getting on with my heart's work, and we'll start back in September. But we do try and just slow it down in the summer. We've always said that, haven't we?
Yeah, we'd sort of have a recess, because you do need to recharge. We also need to recharge
that
and regroup to see what we want to do come September, because it's going to be on us before we know it. So we're just
already.
and it's even, we can just sort of slip something in if we feel like
if there's a
carry or pizza or something like that. Let's just do one before the season starts. Obviously, there's some lodges which meet through the summer. We do it informally. We might go out and just sort of get a few people together for that. But as in events.
First one
we're quite down.
A lot of lodges put on their own barbecues, that sort of thing. There's something there.
Just go in there, social, Sunday social, that sort of thing, which,
And actually they can be quite nice, because there's sometimes those informal ones where I think the wives of today aren't quite the same as the wives of yesteryear, where like Stephen talked about and David Boswell talked about, that the wives totally embraced Masonry and that became their social life. But we are a different breed now, aren't we? And our wives may be very supportive of what we do, but don't necessarily see Masonry as a huge social side. They enjoy it, but so we have to take that into account, don't we?
Well, it's a major part of all our lives. But you see a ladies' night, they're not so keen to go to. But if it's a Sunday social and you're going for a drink, something to eat, we do tend to get a lot of wives, partners go along. And I think that is, you're seeing it's away from the Masonic side of things, but with the gala nights, ladies' nights, it's nice to dress up and go out and spend some time with everyone. But, it is strange at the moment.
I think if it's done almost subtly, that you're not being, we're going to that, but actually, do you want to go and have a little barbecue, a little drink, or a little meal informally? Then the women start to connect, don't they?
And they start to get quite friendly with each other.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
And that sometimes is the key, that we are just in a different era of how we socialise and how we interact with people, aren't we?
Well, we've even spoken about doing joint things, sort of social big ones. There's a possibility that you might be in the chair of your lodge, and potentially, if I go in the chair of my other lodge, there'll be an overlap there, and we could do something together.
Yeah.
And that way, we can bind it up and make it very informal, because I don't think either of our wives would like to stand up and give a ladies' speech. But
That's quite daunting for.
but to do a nice event, because there's 2 lodges, and encourage other people to come along as well.
Also, there's a Cambridge Lodge.
I've got the Cambridge Lodge
That's
as well.
Michael's Lodge, so you can even incorporate weekend.
Yeah, like a Cambridge, Ipswich, and Woodbridge at the moment.
When they when they just come out of Ionic as a master, so you got Master Woodbridge or?
Well, I'm senior warden in Woodbridge at the moment, so there's a potential that I've progressed to the master of that, and I'm still currently the master of
The Cambridge.
of the Elysian Lodge in Cambridge, which I'll be coming out of March next year. So
And do you work?
yeah, I'm a job I try and fit in a month's masonry. Even today is predominantly masonry. For this, we've got a meeting, a sort of development meeting for the Light Blues later, and this morning I was spending time doing the fire risk assessment, planning the projects for all the things what fire risk assessments for Woodbridge Masonic Law.
All right.
So there's a lot to do, but fortunately I'm in a position to work where I can do that.
And what is your work?
We've got a business where we work alongside the bore fields and other marine industries, sort of doing spillages, industrial services, or just basically supporting the maritime industries. Doing a bit of everything.
And Phil, you're Jeremy Clarkson of Suffolk.
The Southern Poorer.
Yeah.
Poor farmer.
Yeah, poor farmer.
Do you know what I liked about the Jeremy? I've never been a great fan of Jeremy Clarkson, but what I liked about that programme is at the end of each series, he just sits down with his team of peers, that team of who he's worked with throughout the year, none of them are celebrities. But I actually think he looks really happy just because he's bonded with them over there.
So do you do that, Phil?
Me and Michael do when we go to lodge.
Oh,
That's our holiday.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
So if people want to SLB listening to this, what's the best way of getting hold of somebody? Have they got that information anyway? But if, say, they've got that bit and they've lost it, what's the best way of getting hold of somebody?
Through the Facebook page.
Through the Facebook.
Yeah, that's our best tool we've got, I think. All of the details are on there, all the events and the stuff is always regularly updated and kept.
But also,
right.
through the summer, one of the things he's trying to develop a line of communication which is very informal. I don't know what way we'll go, whether we use WhatsApp or something for Light Blues, just something like that. So different groups, there is a line of communication. It's controlling it. So and it's got to be for two-way communication, but not go any further, because that's when you lose people if you go off track. So let's keep that as a communication, because we're more than aware that a lot of people don't use Facebook, so you've got to have another way of promoting ourselves to them. We can't go down the old snail mail and start sending newsletters out.
No.
We tend to take email addresses off everyone if they're not on Facebook or anything. And there's a number of them. Phone, email.
Yeah.
And we just make sure we email them everything. We check it's okay with them and just pick it out, because,
you've got to be mindful. A lot of people through work with Facebook.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, people don't always what
It's not always acceptable.
what they're doing as well.
But all the lodge secretaries should get information as well, whether it get passed on as another matter.
Yes, that is one thing we will. Everything, events and correspondence from us will go through the secretaries as well.
And
just always double back up.
We will have the new the new website, which is almost ready for launching. And so you say that we have the Instagram, but there has to be different platforms because not everybody likes
the Instagram.
I've got a list of numbers now. I've got a list of numbers where I ring people.
Yeah,
because they won't answer the
when you call to them.
Yeah, I think that's like that. Fair enough. You send them an email, they don't answer you. Put it on Facebook, they don't answer you. Anyway,
it's a modern world. They don't.
We've gone back.
I know.
Got back to first.
You just ring them up. These are guys. Oh yeah, I'll come along to that, and they do attend. So it's you need to build up.
That's the reassurance. I think a lot of the time we just need to reassure and encourage.
Yeah,
and then we just slowly build, and people are not so everything's being extremely well attended.
Yeah.
And our first one will be in September.
Superb.
We do go under the radar a fair bit, which is sort of there. And like I say, people don't realise what we're doing in the background, and we've got a network where these guys are communicating with us, and we're signposted them to wherever they want to go. But it works.
That's sometimes the most important thing. That it's the stuff going under the radar.
Yeah.
That can be really, really important.
We work with every part of the exec. We like to think, and we, if there's questions, we like to be under the radar, just busy beavering away, really.
And ultimately, people, it's inevitable, but people think they made the wrong choice. Sometimes they join, and they're not overly happy, and they'll speak to you. And you find out why, and you take them along to another lodge. We encourage, we'll visit them, take them along to visit a different lodge, which you think might be more suitable. And ultimately, they're then happy and they love it, and they've reignited why they joined. Because if you join a lodge, nothing against the online, but if you join online, you're put to a lodge, and you might spend 6 months, 7 months, and you don't actually know that in the lodge which meets the following night, 2 or 3 people.
Yeah.
So getting out and about is the key to finding who's on there.
Yeah.
And like I say, we've helped several people, brought them along to other lodges, and it might just be that, once they've joined, they realise, well, actually, a Tuesday doesn't really suit.
Yeah.
You've done well, I'm doing a Thursday or even a Saturday. Like
I've had this for a guy going lodge, Friday night lodge, and he's a taxi driver.
Yeah.
So
it's never going to work.
But it's the busiest night, so
it's most perfect.
Well, the other thing that we have a real problem with, that you guys, I'm going to target you. We have a load of blue festival socks. We need to sell.
Wow.
So light blues, we need to sell them out to the boys.
We need to have a push.
Yeah.
You know that from September, can't you?
Yeah.
That's our action.
Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of raffle prizes.
More attention, more socks on.
Please forget the badge. Over the song.
Yes.
Well, that's
represent the badge.
Could you just roll up your legs so we can see your sock, friends?
Well, that's what I don't know. The Ipswich Lodge, why don't we have 2 or 3 guys start, and we just included it within their joining fees and everything. That we bought a festival tie, I don't think we bought stuff. We bought festival time, we bought gloves, because these guys are buying that anyway.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So it's better if we're doing that, and then it's going to charity.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than going online and ordering from wherever they get them online. But they keep promoting that.
They've built part of that because they've got the time.
Like somebody else saying, and obviously, and they come in with a plain black tie, and then come back in, and people notice they got one.
And we have ordered more toys, so
So, guys, thank you so much for coming in today. We really appreciate it. And I think we want to say thank you for what you do for the light blues and the whole of the province. So, as you say, it isn't just a light blue thing. It's because you're building for the future.
Yeah.
And giving them the confidence to people for the future. So, guys, thank you very much. It's taken a while to get you here, but we're so taking a lot. And if hopefully we'll get you back when you can give us an update, perhaps in the middle of the season.
You just want to know how we get on with socks, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Roger,
Frank's all we wear.
you won't get it otherwise. Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us on another free and accepted podcast. Please like and subscribe to our Suffolk Freemasons YouTube channel.